Okay, hey everyone, welcome to AI in VetMed. Today we have Alan Weissman, and I've been bringing in veterinarians on board to the podcast, but this one is special because Alan is not a veterinarian, but Alan is the CEO and founder of Radimal. So before we get there, Alan, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm great. Yeah, such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us a little bit about, I know you, but I want our audience to know a little bit about you. What's your background, and how you came to the VetMed world.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Radimal, and my background is in building a lot of different technology platforms, also in doing AI and machine learning research. And there was just this moment where I was working for a few different startups in New York, and my brother, Dr. Andrew Weissman, who's a radiologist at Red Bank Hospital, we used to keep in touch by having dinner together. And so there was just this one fateful Friday afternoon where I worked all day. I drove down from the city and it took like 3 hours to get there. And I walked into my brother's house and I said, Andrew, we have to go to dinner right now. We have to go to the restaurant. I'm starving. I've been on the road and working for so long. And he gave me this look and he said, I can't go to dinner. I have all these patients. And I said, what are you talking about? And anyway, it was the first time I had seen what my brother does for work, what radiologists do for work. I couldn't believe that the software to me looked like things that were developed during the Windows 95 era. And anyway, it just, it occurred to me sort of like in a flash that if we just took all the things that we were already doing every day, at these different companies and applied it to veterinary radiology, it might be helpful to him. And I guess it was even a little later that we discovered, how interesting of a company that might be.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know it. That was like how we got a conversation with you and your brother. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so
Thank you.
I'm sure that lots of the people that will be hearing this know about Radima because you've been here for quite some time already, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Radimal and how it works and like you came to this product basically by seeing the struggles of your brother working over time and whatnot, which is a similar story for like what we saw in Vetric with like AI scribes and whatnot. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Radimal and how it works?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, Radimal is a radiology and now specialty medicine platform that, for any practitioner, connects directly to the existing X-ray, ultrasound, CT, MRI machine in their practice, and it allows all the studies to automatically upload into the Radimal dashboard, which is a web-based software dashboard that everybody can access from all the different machines in the practice, iPhones, iPads, all of that. And
Right.
so everybody gets a centralized view of what's happening in radiology. And then from there, there's also several services that can
Mhm.
be accessed. So everything from the Radimal AI, which provides X-ray interpretation, and to the Radimal Reader team, which is a growing community of radiologists and other medical specialists who are able to provide specialist consultations with a guaranteed turnaround. So it's sort of a platform and services all in one place that ultimately, we love radiology, we love specialty medicine, and we continue to see the value in making that an easier and more accurate and clear experience for everyone in the practice.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And it's very refreshing to hear this because, over the past months that I've brought people to the podcast and the current hype about AI and including what we're doing right now with Patrick is a lot about large language models, right?
Yeah.
And GPT of the worlds and non-deterministic outputs and all of these things about how you can generate a text or generation from this large language model. Now, I think, and I would love to hear your thoughts without getting into too much details, but your company is fundamentally different, right? Like there's a lot of like machine learning involved in there. There's image recognition in there. So how have you navigated this, like, AI hype with like large language models with, what you're doing and what you were doing before, which is another question I have for you. But like in general about this AI landscape, you being a company that is not like, you might be using large language models, but I believe that you're fundamentally having other set of AI fundamentals in there.
Thanks. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And so I'll speak in a minute about how we do use LLMs. But yeah, you're right. So fundamentally, we don't use LLMs, and we got very lucky, right? We knew we had the right team from the beginning because I had a background in creating computer vision
Nice.
models and computer vision uh, user-facing applications for
Yeah.
computer visions, not just the science, but also the user experience. And then, of course, I thought, hey, if I can take, Dr. Weissman over here and pick his brain, right? Like we might have something. So anyway, we got lucky, right? Because we had both, boarded medical radiologist
Yeah.
knowledge and technology in the same room from the beginning. And so we were able to build all of those models, over a period of time
Yeah.
by just lots of iterations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a culture of experimentation ultimately.
Of course.
Yep. And so, and the more we include more radiologists and more engineers, the better it gets. And then, so yeah, so there's really like a strong, scientific underpinning to the computer vision models that we use, and then LLMs. And I'm happy to take this wherever you like, but we love LLMs. We found a lot of great places to use LLMs, and we find that there's sort of all these places in the workflow where we want to make things easier, we want to make things more clear, we want to make things more efficient, and LLMs are just great at summarizing things, shortening things,
Yeah.
taking a whole document and turning it into a short message that someone can consume. And so we absolutely, use LLMs sort of all over in the workflow in ways that people wouldn't even
I wouldn't even.
don't even know, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, which is interesting because you were telling me just before the podcast that you started Radimal in 2019, correct? And
Some of the research, yeah.
some of the research, at least, you start with this idea, but what I'm trying to get there is that, in 2019 there was no ChatGPT, right? And so,
Oh,
and like you were doing AI before AI was cool, sort of thing. And when I was in Microsoft, we were also doing AI.
right.
I was part of a big data and AI platform, and we were doing a lot of these things before even GPT-3 came out, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to understand from your perspective in the veterinary medicine ecosystem, how has that AI knowledge and AI technology progression been since 2019, 2020, 2021, up until today, where there's still a lot of veterinarians that don't know about these tools, but I've had a lot more discussions with people that already know about ChatGPT and already know about these things, or are using AI scribes, not only Vetric, but like are using maybe other ones, or even veterinarians that are using Radimal. Like I think that the adoption curve of like AI and technology with VetMed has gone dramatically faster. Maybe I would say over the last year, but again, I've been in this for a year and you've been here for like 5 years. Like I
Yeah.
want to understand from your perspective, like how has that been shifting, and what have you seen in that change?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a good question. I'll do my best. Uh, Also, I have always thought that AI is very cool, even before the
Yeah,
current wave of it.
yeah,
And so, also, I had worked for a company that was doing chat automation for Fortune 500 companies. And even though it wasn't quite LLM based, it was sort of pre LLM based with some Google products and things like that.
mm,
And so I sort of had an understanding of both the chat and the vision side. And I think that I've been sort of fortunate, especially as somewhat of a technologist, to be able to experience firsthand what it's like to watch an entire wave of
yeah,
technology innovation happen in a market, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
And so a few years ago, especially when we started, there was a lot of confusion and fear. There's still a lot of
There's
confusion
still,
and fear around it, which is understandable.
yeah,
And
yeah,
also, I think Yeah, I think you're also right that in some way we've seen the, I don't know, the crest of the hype or the biggest rush of the hype in the last year, and maybe that has not subsided but eased a little bit. And we've definitely seen more and more adoption, and I think that it's almost like the less that things get called AI, the better. And I've heard some even medical professionals at some of the AI panels and forums in VetMed have talked about this, that like the best thing you might do for your organization is not to call it AI,
That's correct.
um, which we'll have to talk to our marketing team about that. But the because ultimately, and we hear this from the engineering side too, that AI is just more engineering, right? It's a certain
Yeah.
discipline within engineering, but people have used databases or emails or all these other tools. AI is another tool. It's another thing that we can leverage from
Yeah.
within the technology stack. And I think the more that everyone gets accustomed
Yeah.
to that, right, the easier it is for everybody to just use it because it is great.
Yeah. And what about the like you mentioned like fear, right? You know, I've gotten into conversations where people think that, an AI scribe like Vetric is going to replace them. And it's like, of course not.
Oh
If,
yeah,
if I were to replace, I I have two dogs. Like, I would not want to interact with a robot or interact with, there's always to be the human aspect. But
yeah,
if you can help the human there to be more efficient,
yeah, yeah.
like you're doing, then it makes the whole profession better. It makes the human itself less burnt out, less stressed out. We know these things, you and I, and like people in the industry, but I've talked to a lot of people that might not necessarily agree or like are more fearful, especially in VetMed. Have you had those conversations? Like, how do you go away around that?
Sure, sure. Thank you. Yeah, that's it's a great question, great topic. Uh, Ultimately, I think we're in a care delivery industry, right? And one thing that I love about VetMed is that there is just no shortage of people who really do care and are in it because they do care. And I think that AI is not very good at caring about things. Like that is a uniquely human thing that is absolutely critical to delivering veterinary medicine and creating wellness. And it's a place where AI absolutely cannot perform. And so AI can look at data and create some views on that data and can provide information to someone who cares. But I think that,
Yeah,
yeah, I really draw the line there, right? And like you're saying, if for instance, if you were an AI right now, I would not, there like the feeling of
yeah, the
of this
feeling.
whole episode. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be there. It could be the same words, it
yeah.
could be the same intonation, but there's something to the human connection. And I think that that's ultimately what people benefit from when they go and seek medicine for their animal.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great way to explain it. It's about the empathy. It's what I've heard with. I mean, it's the same. It's the same as you're saying, right? It's that feeling. It's that connection. So having that empathy, which I don't think we're there, and we're gonna get there soon. But yeah, I think that's super important. Okay, let's see, Alan. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is,
Mhm.
following this topic as we close this podcast is how do you encourage folks to in VetMed, right, to get more familiar with these technologies? Whether it is AI scribe, whether it is teleradiology, whether it is any other type of stuff that they could be using with AI, just so that they get their hands into, they know what's coming, they know that it's there to help. Like any specific things that you recommend. Some of the things that I say, and I'll go first, is I always tell people, like, without even telling them about Vetric, it's like open up ChatGPT. It's like just
Mm.
open up ChatGPT and like use it for a bit. Like see the power of it, see the value of it, and if you don't like it, I mean, at least you tried it. But like there's like very easy ways and things that you can do to do something to learn more about what's coming, what's there, what's here already, and how it can help the profession. I don't know if you have any specific things that you tell new grads or specialists that you work with a lot, or yeah, to ease that transition into like, hey, AI is here to stay. What can you do to get started, sort of thing?
Thanks. I think along those same lines, the two things that come to mind for me are one, as you say, people should try it in whatever form they feel comfortable with. And there's, as you mentioned, just so many different formats for it right now, so many different opportunities to try it. So people should absolutely try it. And I think the corollary of that is that people's own um, medical training, people's own thoughtfulness and perspective has never been more important, and
Yeah.
they should absolutely apply that as much as they ever had to AI to see, how does this work for me? What can this do for me? And also, what can this not do for me? If I think that this just means that doctors don't need to exist anymore, well, why don't you go? Why don't you really test that hypothesis and see what you come up with?
Yeah, I love that. What a great way to end. That's the hypothesis of using a robot instead of a doctor to see if it really is going to replace you. No, that's awesome. Anyways, thank you so much, Alan. As I said, this is
Thank
a
you.
podcast. I just wanted to bring you in and have your story be shared. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Such a pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.